Say just plain talk on marriage. This is Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. So proud to be with you today. In the book of Philippians, I've been doing a series, and in that series, I forgot exactly where I was, and I'll have to go back and find out where I was. But I believe I was on the 15, 16, 17, the 17th one, I believe I was on. No, I'd have to go back and find out. But anyway, this one here is just a random. This is a random speaking today. I'm going to do 30 minutes of just plain talk. If you're a married person, your marriage is a matter of absolute necessity. That'd be the first thing in your life. If it's not the first thing in your life, I know God has to be first, and God has to be first in your marriage. But then your marriage has got to be the very, very, very first thing in your life if you're married. And I can relate so many things that I see happen in marriages. I see men treat their dogs 10 times better than they do their wives. I see men treat themselves 10 times better than they do their marriage. And then on the other hand, on the other side of the scale, I see women do the same thing. They have this little fluffy white dog, and this dog means more to her actually than her husband does. And when she goes out with the ladies, or she goes out shopping, or she goes anywhere, it's you just have to get your own meal today. Me and the women are going out, or whatever. And I couldn't come home and cook supper tonight. You're gonna have to stop and get something at McDonald's because I've got this party or whatever. And the marriage is secondary in the life. That shouldn't be. Your marriage shouldn't be secondary in your life. Second thing shouldn't be secondary. The Lord Jesus Christ should not be secondary in your life. If He has saved you, and you say you are born again, that means you are a live Christian. What does a live Christian do? A live Christian supposed to act like a fish on a hook. He's not. A fish on a hook is restless. He's not going to just lay there and let you reel him in. He's going to move around, and he's going to jump out of the water, and he's going to flounder, and he's going to pull against you. Well, this is what a Christian's supposed to do. He's supposed to pull against the rigors of life. Just like that fish does on that hook. Pull against the rigors of life that are trying to reel you in. If that dog means more to you than your wife, get rid of the dog. Otherwise, may end up getting rid of the wife that you say you love, that you say you would take and betroth, be married until the day of death do you part. But one of my worst scenarios of thinking today, and dealing right now, I'm dealing with many disturbed situations in this world. One of the biggest disturbed situations in this world is I see a husband or a wife estranged from each other because of non-thinking action, not necessarily always on purpose. Just nonchalantly walking through life, treating their marriage too light. I tell you what I could do. I could reach out here and break one of these light bulbs, and that would be the beginning of putting out the light in this room. And I reach up there and I break another one. And I reach over here and I break another one. And I reach over here and I break one. And I've got about 5 or 6 more on in here. But every time I break one, the room gets darker. And if I break the bulbs out, then pretty soon you can't see me. I become non-existent. That's a marriage. That's a picture of a marriage that you've been breaking the bulbs out for years, and now you've come into a dark hole you can't get out of. And you've caused each other animosity to each other. Do you have a suggestion, Brother Peter? I'm Brother Peter. Say, Brother Peter, do you have a suggestion? I have one. Look at your marriage. Agree first with yourself, your failures. Then sit down, man with your wife, wife with your man, and say, let's look at our marriage. Let's look at ourselves. Let's look at the union that God made for you and I. And let's look at the union that God made for him and I, and you and him. Now let's look at the union here. Paul and Timotheus in the book of Philippians were servants of Jesus Christ. When I married my woman, in a big sense of the word, my responsibility is to be a servant to her wants and her needs. If she has a need, I need to make sure that that need is met, a true need. A woman's different than a man. You say, what do you mean, Brother Peter? I mean that she needs, just like I need aftershave, she needs perfume. Does she absolutely need that? She could live without it. And you could live without aftershave. The thing about it is that's one of her needs. She needs that to be part of the today's system. She needs a little rouge. She needs a hair dryer, a hair blower. She needs many, many feminine things that men don't need. But it's that man's duty to make sure she has all of her feminine needs met all the time. It's a funny thing when you first got married. Your wife said, you get near a store today, would you pick me up this item, this item, and this item? You say, yes, honey, I will. And 10 years later, it's the same woman, and you're married to her, and she says, will you go get me this item, this item, and this item? And you say, no, on your life, I ain't going near that feminine stuff down there. What happened? 10 years passed, and you got cold and indifferent compared to what you were when you started. I'm talking about the beginning of a problem that probably began a long time ago, but you didn't address it. And you changed. I can see when we first got married and lived in a cold country, my wife saying to me, hey, will you right in the bedroom? I came out without my slippers and get my slippers for me. Do, right in the bedroom and grab the slippers and run back out there, and here they are, hon. And so 10 years later, here she is, she said, man, I came out here barefoot this morning, I forgot my slippers. Would you run and get them? And here's your answer. Get them yourself. You knew enough to put them on before you came out. What changed? I tell you what changed. You changed. Your love changed. You allowed it to slip. You allowed it to slip. If I've got a piece of heavy equipment and I'm using it daily, and I reach out with a bucket with this equipment and I pull back, and I reach out and I pull back. In a couple of years, I've got a lot of wear on that main pin, reaching out and pulling back. So I stick my bucket out when I first bought it, and I stop it, and it stops right there. Now I stick the bucket out, and I stop, and it goes like this. And when I go to dig, I'm making enough racket so they can hear me 2 counties down. What is my need? What do I need to do? I need to change that pin. That pin has wore out. What you and I have done, instead of letting our love grow, instead of greasing our love on a daily basis, which if I had to grease that pin every time that I used it, that pin would not be wore out. But I failed to grease that pin, and that pin wore out. Now I've got to replace the pin. Now I failed to grease my marriage on a daily basis. If I fail to grease my marriage on a daily basis, I've got that shaky marriage. And it won't work right. It won't work like it should. So what do I have to do? I have to go back to where I started. I have seen in my 40 years of being in the church and salvation and in this Christian life, I have seen people come down and redo their vows. They've had a shaking in their marriage, and they've redone their vows. Some of us husbands out here, you say us, yes, us. Some of us husbands out here need to rekindle that first love with our wives. Some of us husbands out here need to rekindle that first love with Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior. If we're not rekindled with Him, we're not going to be able to rekindle properly with our wife and have the love of God with our wife. This is a very, very touchy subject in most people's lives. They say, stay out of my marriage, it's all right. Well, if he's slamming the door when he leaves, and she's slamming the door when she leaves, if there's no good coexistence together when you're home, if he doesn't come home until bedtime, or she doesn't come home until bedtime because it's kind of real rough around the house, that's putting it very lightly. What do we need to do? I tell you what we need to do, you folks who are married. This is a thing for married folks and folks that are planning to get married someday. All right, let's see. Paul and Timothy, they were servants of Jesus Christ. When you start reading this, it's like my name is Peter and my wife's name is Ernestine. Peter and Ernestine in 1963, on February 2nd, stood before a preacher and said to each other, I will take thee to be my lawful wedded wife or husband. I will honor thee. I will obey thee. I will trust thee. I will do my best to support thee. I will do all of these things. And then I added this, till death do we part. Are you the biggest liar that ever lived? Have you failed in many areas down through there, and now you're saying we're going to throw this thing in the wind and hang it up and call it it? I've seen people get in the church and do that with the Lord, and now they're in prison. I've seen people say that to their wife and treat her like a dog, and now she's living with some other man. Some got married again. Some just went to live with other men because they say the marriage vows don't mean anything. We're living in a day where marriage vows don't mean anything. Why don't they mean anything? Because we're living in a world with a bunch of liars, a bunch of heathens, a bunch of godless people. Where do you find these godless people? Many, 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 many of them you find in the church. Sitting in a pew, listening to a preacher perform the act of actually living what he's saying. He's performing what he's saying to you for you to perform. And you've got to do that if you want to conform to Jesus, to God. And so, look what here refers to both men, Paul and Silas. They were both bound to Jesus Christ. And they were in the bands of the constraining love of Jesus Christ. When you say your marriage vows, you are in a constraining bond. Do you know that if you treated your house note like you treat your wife, the bank would take your house back from you? If you treated your car note like you treat your wife, or wife like you treat your husband, they would take your car back. And some of you people, if you treated your dog like you treat your wife, your dog would already be dead. Or the welfare department, not welfare, but the animal department would have come and got you for animal cruelty. We are in a mess. We are in a messed up marriages. We have messed up marriages. And because we have messed up marriages, because we're not following the book. I can take the book of Philippians, I can take Paul and Timothy, and show you a relationship and a bond, a truthful bond between two people that would make a perfect marriage for a man and a woman if they would follow this bond. The cross makes the attributes of a marriage possible. The cross of Jesus Christ makes the statement you made when you said, I take you to be my lawful wedded person until the day I die. In order for you to be honest in that and be truthful in that and follow that through, you have to follow God. You have to say, God, I'm a sinner. Forgive me of my sin. Come in my heart and save my soul first. And then you have to follow God. He will not. God used the word divorce. He said, I will divorce you, my people, if you do not do what I say for you to do. And he ended up divorcing the Jewish people and marrying the Gentiles. And saying to the Gentiles, I'm coming to you. I'm going to come over to you. I'm going to give you the opportunity to follow. And I'm going to come over and marry you Gentiles. And that's what I am. I'm a Gentile. He did not exclude the Jews from coming in and doing the same as a Gentile. Put away Judaism and come into Christianity. See, Christianity is what makes the difference between Judaism and Christianity. They're two different things. The Judaism is following the law. Christianity is following Christ. Now when you come back to a marriage, the law says for you to do this or do that, put a roof over the head for your wife. The law says you have to have a table and chairs in the kitchen for your wife. The law says you have to have a working bathroom for your wife. When you get down, and I've seen it, I have seen it come down to this. In my life, I've seen a battle in a home between a husband and wife who just absolutely, positively hated each other, despised each other, and he took everything from the house that legally he could get away with. I remember when I was a very young boy that when this guy went to work every morning, he carried the TV out, put it in his car. He carried the coffee out, put it in his car. He carried everything out, and he said, "Woman, the only thing I'm required by law to leave in this house is a table and chair for you and that working bathroom. That's it. And by law, I ain't required to have anything else in this house for you." And so that's how people are treating their marriages today. I'm just getting down to the nitty-gritty, just talking plain, common what I see in the world today. Now look what Paul said. "I thank my God every day in remembrance of you." Now right now, he was away from Timothy for a little bit. And as he was away from Timothy for a little bit, he said, "Timothy, I'm mindful to pray for you on a regular basis. And I'm going to thank God for you every day." Man, do you thank your wife? You thank God for your wife every day? Wife, do you thank God for your husband every day? Hey, one of the very first things in my life is the only regret I have about getting up early in the morning is I sleep in a bed with my wife. And I don't really particularly like to get out of bed early while my wife's still in bed. When we're in bed together. We're laying there together. There may not be no contact, but we're in bed together. And when I get up and leave her, it's a breaking away. And then when I go to bed at night, I don't like going to bed alone. I don't go to bed alone. If she sets up until 12 o'clock for one reason or another, I'm going to set up until 12 o'clock. And we're going to go to bed together. When we eat, when we sit down to eat, when we sit down and eat breakfast, we're going to sit down and eat breakfast together. When we sit down to eat dinner, we're going to sit down and eat dinner together. When we eat supper, we're going to sit down and eat supper together. We are a union. You don't break a union. I had a union on my wood splitter a little while ago that got wore out. And I didn't mend it or fix it. I just let it run and run and run, and then pretty soon it broke. And so that's what happens with the marriages today that are broke. People aren't fixing them. We need to go back to that day when you got on that knee and said to that woman, "I want you to be my wife." Or that woman said, "I will be your wife." We need to go back to that day and say, let's do this again. If you find yourself, I don't care if you're a wealthy person or a poor person, I don't care who you are. If you find yourself lackadaisical in your marriage, you better mend it right now. You better mend it before it breaks. If it's already broken, start dating the same woman that you married. Start dating that woman. Start taking her on a date. Call her up and say, "Hey, First thing I need is forgiveness. Can you ever forgive me for my heathen way that I have treated you? Husband or wife. Can you forgive me for the heathen way I've treated you? That's a fact. That's a truth. If you have any friction between you and your wife right now, both of you or one of you have done a heathen way toward the other one. You need to mend that. You need to mend that. You need to get back to pick out some of the very lovely days of your life that you had in your beginning of marriage and whatever, and reenact those. Reenact those. Let's see what Paul says here about Timothy. He says, I think of you every day. This does not refer to being disconnected. They're not disconnected. They're moved to do two different places, but they're still connected with each other. And the recollection that Paul's talking about here is his total past experience with Timothy was so great that he longed to see him again. He longed to pray for him. He longed to say, you're never out of my prayers. You're always in my prayers. You're always right there. It's just like you're with me. I'm praying for you, and I long for you to be back in person, walking with me down the road. And that's the way with a marriage. When we're not together, we should long for. Have you ever called your wife up not long after you were married and said, middle of the day, she's at work and you're at work, and you call her up, she answers the phone, and you say, hey honey, how you doing? And she said, I'm doing good, honey, how you doing? And he said, well, I just thought I'd call you and tell you I love you, and can't hardly wait till we get home tonight. Have a good supper and enjoy life. Well, she does that with him. Have we let that go? Have we let that go? The private life of two people? No, nowadays we get on the YouTube and we type in a bunch of junk on a Facebook or on some kind of place where everybody in the world can read it. And that's not private love. That's not private. That's not personal. Let's get back personal. The quest of joy that Paul talks about. He says he makes request with joy. He requests God to bless Timothy with joy. I ask the Lord to bless my wife with a good day, and with joy in her life on a daily basis. Do you know she does the same thing for me? Many a time she'll call me 2:30 in the afternoon. Say, hey, hon. I say, hey, how's your day going? Good. Well, she said, I knew it was kind of a rough start. Did everything work out okay? Yeah. Well, I'm glad. I'll see you when you get home tonight. You say that's during an 8-hour day? Yeah. The window of an 8-hour day. Interest in each other. Have you lost the interest in each other for one reason or another? Have you allowed things to slip? Boy, 30 minutes is fast. Our time is come and gone. Listen to what Paul said. For your fellowship in the gospel from the first day until now, being confident of this very thing, that he which began a good work in you will perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. He's talking about the salvation that Timothy had. But this statement that he's making is the exact same statement that we make when we say, until death do us part, I'll take you for better or for worse or all of the other above. This is the same exact statement that we make to each other personally when we get married. And then if we're not careful, you could be a dog trainer. I got news for you, man. Your wife's not a dog. And she's not going to do like a dog. She's not going to listen to your dog training ideas for her. And I'll tell you something, woman. Your husband's not a pet dog. And he's not going to do like your pet dog does for you. A marriage is a union of give and take. It needs to be the same as it was the first month you were married. It needs to be the same as it was when you were dating. You know something? So you know, there's a lot of people had a better life when they were dating than they had when they were married. Because when they got married, all of a sudden, one of them thought that he became the king or the boss. Or the woman thought she became the queen and she could tell the king what to do. This is a mutual agreement marriage. I've got to go. My time has come and gone. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. All right. My eyes aren't good.